What's going on, everyone? It's Bray with Jacoje Fine Jewelry, your personal jeweler. 10mm, 24-inch Miami Cuban link. You see it. Cody Watson wants to know, Bray, I'm still new to this and I'm still confused about why chains of the same length, carat, and millimeter are different weight, all being sold, different sellers. Sure, there's a simple answer. Yes, the simple answer is no, they're not the same, but I did not wake up early on a Saturday to get all nice for you guys to make this video to provide a simple answer. So with that being said, let's get started. Now, if you're comparing the two exact chains, you should allow plus or minus 5% variance depending on the diamond cut and the batch, of course. But if you, and I've said this a bunch of times, I'll say it again, there is hundreds and hundreds of different manufacturers in this world. You can't directly compare one manufacturer's flat curve to the next manufacturer's flat curve because there's a lot of things that could be different. Spaced out links, thinner links, tighter links. You guys get the point. So that is one thing. That is the broad spectrum, but from a buyer's, and I will get in detail about this from the buyer's perspective, from my position with the manufacturers, it gets a little bit more intense and frustrating because everything's based off gauges. Manufacturers don't talk millimeters. That's me talking to you about how thick something is. They talk gauges. Gauges being the thickness of that wire. You guys see the Miami Cuban link build videos where they're pulling that wire through. They know exactly how thick that Miami Cuban link is going to end up being based off the wire they are using. So now manufacturers are using wire and it could vary based off the thickness of that wire. And it depends on the style of chain, of course. For instance, a 100 gauge Franco is 3mm final. A 100 gauge flat curve, Mariner, Figaro, or Miami Cuban link, the average is 4mm. So with a link style chain, you're getting an extra width compared to the rounded Franco. And the same gauge is being used for both chains. The thing is with that variance, and my honest opinion as to why there's such a big variance, is because the plus or minus in the final width with most of these manufacturers. You might have a finished 3.9mm flat curve compared to a finished 4.2mm flat curve. Two different manufacturers, two different sellers. Both sellers are probably just going to want to make it look clean and say it's a 4mm flat curve, and then that's why the 3.9 might weigh a couple grams less than the 4mm. If you actually measured the width, one is 3.9 and one is 4.2. Now here's an example. On the left we have an exact 5mm Miami Cuban link, very nice chain, and on the right the Miami Cuban links that I sell on my website, 5.2mm. If I have the option to go up slightly with the chains I'm selling, I'm going to do it. My problem is being online is people look at these videos, the pictures, and the chains pieces look bigger. So I try to go up slightly so that way when you get it, it's like, okay, that extra thickness of the 0.2mm, trust me, makes a big difference. You guys might be able to pick it up in the video. And then of course, I always just detail the gram weight so everything's transparent, but it's rounded down to 5mm. It's just easier on the eyes to do it that way. And most chains are gonna have a variance. Some of the chains are exactly spot on. Some are plus or minus like I just described. And I brought that up to manufacturers like, why can't it be exactly on the dot? Because I'm sure you guys are watching this video like, I don't get how hard it is just to make it 8mm. And their simple answer is, you know what? People see it, they want it. It's not a big deal to us. And that's kind of true because when you go into that store and you see it, you try it on, it doesn't really matter about the width or the name of it. You just see it and say, yeah, this is a good size. I like it. This is what I'm going for. Here's my pendant. It looks good on it. So it's a much easier experience. The online shopping is kind of something not new, but it's getting popular. So it's important for people like me to have exact transparency and have something that is exactly the width or higher like I do, go up 0.10 or 0.2 to make it a slightly thicker, so when you get it and see it in person, you're like, okay, this is the one I really wanted. So long story short, guys, rarely is it the same exact chain. There's so many manufacturers, so many different ways of doing things, and the end result might be those gram weight difference. And scammers out there, don't use this video to justify your scamming ways against innocent people. And if you're a consumer and just want a good chain, Jacoje.com's got it for you guys. And for instance, like the 5mm Miami Cuban link, yes, I would love to sell on the nose, on the button, 5mm, but that chain wasn't as high quality as that 5.2mm that I'm currently selling. So I have to go up a little bit in width but I want to ultimately sell the best quality chain. So that's kind of the balancing act that I have to, as a buyer and a seller, juggle with, because I want the best width and transparency wise, but I also want the best quality as well. So that's why it's the 5.2. It's a better manufacturer, better chain, and most of the time people get their chains and guess what? It's a little smaller than they anticipated and expected. So if I go up a little bit, everybody's happy. Shop Jacoje. Hopefully that answers some of your guys' questions. I know buying online is tough when you're comparing the prices, the gram weights, everything. It can get confusing, but it's worth taking your time, doing your research, and ultimately finding the right chain for you. If you have any additional questions, you know where to find me, jacojedesigns@gmail.com. I respond to my emails all day long. That's it for today's video, and we will see you on our next jewelry video.